Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Kelsey Wiest. I am a member of the Hawks Training and Support Team. Today's webinar is going to focus on an introduction to setting up a new course within your Hawks Instructor gradebook. I just want to send a quick reminder before I jump in and get started that if you happen to have questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to chat those into the Q&A box that should be located at the panel at the bottom of your screen. While our instructor tooling is incredibly robust and easy to use and can do just about anything that you would need it to do as far as a course management tool goes, I'm going to focus on the kind of main features that you need to set up in order to get started in using our materials. So while you will see a number of options that I'm not going to necessarily highlight in this training, it is something that you can certainly feel free to reach out to your training and support representative to set up a supplemental training to go through some of the items that I won't be covering today. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and get started. First and foremost, you will be accessing your Hawks course from a URL. You can find that at the top. Mine is one of our demonstration grade books, but yours will be custom to your school and the Hawks product that you're using. This is how you log in and out of the instructor courseware using a login name and a password. Initially, when you log in, you're brought to a home screen where you are going to be given some section checklist options and important reminders and announcements from our company will be located here. I'm going to start on the Help tab and really just point out the 3 to 4 main features that you'll be using as far as setting up a brand new course in Hawks. As I mentioned, it's really easy to get started in using our materials, and there really are only a couple things that you need to do to get started. Before I dive into those, I do want to highlight some of our helpful features that we make available to instructors on the Help tab. A couple of those are really important as far as new faculty go. If you're new to using our resources, we do try to make quite a few helpful guides available right from within your online gradebook. A couple that I use relatively frequently or point out quite often to faculty using our resources is this Using the Online Gradebook. This is an incredibly robust online sort of frequently asked questions and navigable using the gradebook tool. Any of the items that you have access to in your instructor tooling, you can access some how-to guides with screenshots and helpful information about how to use those tools in this Using the Online Gradebook. I use it quite frequently just to send screenshots and point out features that instructors are interested in using. A couple other things that are worth pointing out. We do have some student training videos that are available and ready to use. If you are getting started in using our materials amid this health crisis, the student training videos can be exceptionally helpful to pass along to your students. There are two, one that focuses on setting up an account within Hawks, and the second focuses on navigation within our platform. You can feel free to click on this link and send direct links to those videos right to your students. Lastly, we do have an instructor repository of instructor resources. This has supplemental resources that you can feel free to use within your class. If you are meeting virtually but still want to have some guidance for lectures and those sorts of things, we do have PowerPoint teaching slides. We do have instructional videos. We also have tutorial videos for instructors and students posted here, getting started guides, chapter projects, all sorts of resources that are geared to supplementing the material that you can use virtually. So I'm going to jump in and actually get started in setting up a course. Really, the first and main step to getting started with Hawks is setting up some sections. This will allow you to better manage your students and group your students together so that you can manage their progress through the course and their grades as they're actually navigating through the content that you select. It's really easy in setting up your sections. You'll navigate to the Tools tab and then select this Manage Sections option. Under Manage Sections, this allows you to add individual sections for all of the courses that you're planning to implement using Hawks. If you are teaching 4 sections of college algebra and every single one is using our Hawks resources, you would want to add in a new section for each section you're planning to implement within Hawks, again, so that you can group your students together and the students can use this for the self-enrollment process. You can see here that I have 2 sections that have already been added into my course. If I wanted to go ahead and add an additional section in, there is this Add New Sections button. This will allow you to set up the shell of your section where you can name it whatever you'd like. Math 101 Section 2 perhaps. You can define your section meeting times, set up a start and end date for your section. This will serve as bookends for the section itself. So if you do not want to accept any work before the start date of your class and you want to cut students off from accessing any tests or quizzes or lessons at the end date of class, this will allow you to ensure that students are only working within the confines of the start and end date. You also have the option of defining when lessons are due. This is something I see instructors customizing pretty frequently. If you are meeting with your students at a very particular day and time, and you want to ensure that lessons are turned in and completed prior to the day and time you're meeting, this will allow you to modify on a section by section basis when the homework assignments that you're picking out for this section are actually going to be due. If you happen to be teaching multiple sections, we also do have this course copy tool in the center area. So if you've already customized and set up an entire section with settings and assignments that you want to use in your new sections, this effectively allows you to set up a course template and push it out to multiple sections and or multiple instructors. It allows you to copy all assignments and settings from one section to the next. This makes it incredibly easy to manage multiple sections within our courseware and keep the material that you're assigning consistent across all of those sections. If you use our course copy tool, the only thing you'd really have to do at that point is manage individual due dates for the actual assignments themselves. So it does make it really easy when you are actually managing multiple sections that are assigning the same work. I'm not going to save this, but again, this tools and manage sections is really just setting up the shell sections that you'll be assigning homework to and managing students within. 2 quick things I want to point out before we move on. We do have some LMS integration options. So if you happen to use Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, or Brightspace, and you want to either allow students to access Hawks directly from within those courses, or from within those platforms, or you want to use our grade synchronization tool, we do have the capability to set that up on a school by school basis. Now, if you are using right now, it's likely that your IT folks are bogged down with a lot of need from the faculty at your school. We do need to typically work with the admins at the campus level in order to get this set up and implemented. However, if you do want to move forward and utilize our grade synchronization tool or our single sign-on tool, that's certainly something that you can discuss with your training and support representative and walk through the steps of getting that set up. This just allows for more seamless integration of Hawks into those LMSs. Additionally, throughout the instructor courseware, we try and highlight some quick steps to getting started and setting up your sections. So these are highlighting really the main areas that I'll be walking through today as far as assignments and or settings that you will likely need to set up in order to set up a full section for your students. This 5 quick steps is really helpful. There are linkable tips here where you can click and access more information, but it's sort of just a quick checklist that you can work through as you're navigating through setting up a course. So moving on to grade settings, after you've set up your initial shell sections, you'll navigate to the grade settings area really to set up and define how your students are getting graded for the work that they're completing in your course. The 2 areas that I'm going to focus on are assignment groups and lesson late penalties. Assignment groups really just allows you to set up and determine a grade scale to match your syllabus. This is essentially how you're choosing to grade your students for any of the work that you've set up within your course. We do have a variety of assignments that you can actually choose to set up that I'll go through on the assignments tab. And when you select assignments, they can be categorized into our pre-populated assignment groups. So anytime you're setting up a section from scratch, it will already come preloaded with these 3 assignment groups, really just for ease of setup and ease of getting started. It isn't mandatory for you to use the homework, tests, and quizzes category. So if you don't use Hawks for quizzes, or if you still utilize paper pencil testing or plan to in the future, and don't want to manage grades here, you don't necessarily have to keep these groups. You can edit these in any way you see fit and add in any additional customized groups that you might want to track in order to create a full picture of what the student's grade is for this particular course. So again, you can add in as many groups and subgroups and categorize your assignments however you see fit to ensure that the grading scheme in Hawks matches what's on your syllabus. A few things just to point out here. We do really recommend, as far as the homework or certify assignments go, assigning a slightly more significant weight to the homework. We suggest this for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, we really want to encourage students to actually be in the system and working through the certify assignments. When you assign a more significant weight, that has a more significant impact on the students' grades, it shows the students the value that you're placing on those assignments. We typically suggest anywhere from 20 to 30% weight for the homework assignments, because this is really where a lot of the learning takes place for students. This is where they can make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and really master the content in order to demonstrate competency of topic on more substantial assignments like tests or quizzes. Assigning this higher weight really does give the students an indicator that it's an important part of their grade, and it rewards them for investing the time and actually going through and doing the assignments. A couple of reminders, again, all of our lessons are set up with a distinctive learning path, a learn, practice, and certify. The certify is the graded part of the lesson, and this is where the students are expected to master entire topics at a designated mastery level for that specific lesson in order to receive credit for that assignment. They must do this without the dependence of any sort of learning aid, so it's really showing the students or showing you what the students are learning within these lessons and giving you some reassurance that the students are really mastering these topics without becoming overly reliant on any sort of helpful learning aids. We of course see value in those, so we give students access to the learn and practice mode to make those mistakes, learn from the mistakes, access the explain error tool, get some step-by-step guidance, but once they get to certify, it really becomes the expectation on the students to perform at that mastery level, master the topics, and get credit once they've achieved mastery. So again, it's one thing that we just suggest as far as helping the students to invest in the certify assignments, but you can set this up however you see fit. The main thing that you'll want to make sure is that this just matches the weighting of the assignments that you're setting up on your syllabus. We do have a couple custom options that are worth pointing out. This makes it really easy for you to give your students some flexibility in the semester. We have these grading rules that allow you to either keep the highest certain amount of assignments in any given group or drop the lowest in any given group. So if you are leaning toward being more flexible now, just given the situation and having to move to a virtual environment, and you want the students to be able to, or you want to be able to drop the lowest certain number of homework assignments from this particular group, you can do this automatically and it will reflect in the students' grades right away. So it does make it really easy for you to have that flexibility with your students. The other area I want to point out in the grade settings is the lesson late penalty. This is going to allow you to essentially penalize your students for, in some small way or larger way, for working after the dates that you've set up. So you'll notice that we do utilize templates. This makes it really easy for sharing certain templates between either sections and or instructors. It makes it incredibly nice if you want to share certain settings in certain areas, but don't necessarily want to share entire courses. So for instance, maybe these two sections share the same late penalty, but you're setting up different assignments for the sections. You can share the template between the two sections really easily and not have to set up everything twice. But in order to actually set up a late penalty, this would be applying to the certify assignments only. You can click in your section name and it's going to load the option of assigning two different types of penalties. There's a fixed penalty where you can just take a straight percentage off the student's grade for any homework assignments that are turned in after the due dates that you set up. I don't necessarily suggest taking 100% off the students' grades after the due date, because you do always want to encourage the students to be in there and working through the lessons themselves. But you can define the fixed penalty to always be the same penalty value, utilizing this fixed penalty. You do also have a graduated. This is the one that I see used most frequently, where you can essentially take an increasing percentage off the student's grade for any amount of days late after the due dates that you have set up. What I see most frequently is typically a week's worth of late penalty, where an instructor might be taking off 10% only for the first day that the assignment is late, perhaps increasing that to 20% for the second day late. Moving on from there to 30 for 3 days late, 40 for 4, and then anytime after 4 days or 5, so you don't necessarily have to go in sequential order here. You can jump up from 1 day to 4 days to 10 days. However you'd like to penalize your students, you can max out the credit penalty at 50%. So this really allows you to encourage students to work within, or as close as they can, to the due dates that you have set up. The graduated approach is the easiest way for students to understand that they should be working within the schedule that you provide them, giving them a little bit more flexibility the closer they turn things into the due dates that you've selected, and penalizing a bit more for work that's turned in over a certain date range. You can set graduations up to 50 days. Don't know that I'd recommend that, but it's certainly an option that you have. And it does allow for quite a bit of flexibility. But again, this applies to the certify assignments only, and definitely something we encourage given how we approach our mastery within the certify. So students will always, once they reach the mastery level, they are always rewarded with full 100% credit on that assignment. So if you do not put a late penalty in place, the students will always be able to earn 100% on the homework assignments only, regardless of when they actually complete those assignments. It's important to understand that, number one, because we do, again, want to encourage students to actually be working within the lessons, mastering the content, mastering the topics, because this is where a lot of that learning takes place, and holding them accountable to that standard of an 80% mastery level is typically higher than you would see in a traditional set of homework assignments. But on the flip side, we do want to encourage students to work within the due dates that you have set up to ensure that they're actually making adequate progress. And this is one of the best ways we see fit. So again, once you've set up your section on the Tools tab, you're then going to define your grading scheme and assignment groups, set up a lesson late penalty, and then get to the nitty-gritty of the class, which is actually picking out assignments. So moving on to the assignments tab, this is really where you're going to actually be setting up and selecting assignments for your students to complete. There's a few things I'm going to point out on this page, because we do have a few different types of assignments that you can set up and assign to your course. But I'm going to start with the lesson due dates. These are our pre-created lessons or learning modules that are really ready to go. This is the most important area to set up when you are setting up a course, because this controls what shows up on your students' to-do list. So you may have selected to use our college algebra materials, and this is the main area that you go to pick out the learning modules that will assign the learn, practice, and certify mode for any of the lessons you choose to use. Again, we're using templates, so these can be shared between sections if you have multiple sections that are using the exact same set of assignments. and the exact same due dates, you can share those templates between the two sections. But if you do have sections that are slightly different, where maybe one's self-paced and uses no due dates, or one is more accelerated and uses accelerated due dates, you can set up separate templates for multiple sections. To actually begin the process of selecting the lessons that you're going to assign to a section, you're going to click on the actual name of the section in the gray box. It will load a screen that looks very much like this. If you are starting from scratch, you'll see a page that's similar, but instead of seeing some pre-populated due dates here that are quite out of date, you'll just see all of the lessons that are available to assign within this particular course. And in order to actually assign it, it's really just as easy as clicking on the little calendar icon to open up a calendar and selecting the days of the week that you want certain assignments due. You can go through the whole list of assignments this way and really just pick out the ones that you want to assign, bypass those that you don't, and save changes. This will then control the lessons showing up on your students' to-do list and the students then being able to complete those assignments. And they'll be required to complete them by the date that you insert here. A few tips that I have. We do have all these columns are clickable, so anytime you're setting up dates and skipping large quantities of lessons, maybe you don't cover anything in chapter 2, I recommend clicking on this due date box. This will shuffle all assignments that you are actually selecting and assigning to the top of the page for you to better see and track how you're actually scattering the due dates throughout the course and for all of the lessons that you've picked out. We do have a couple customization options here as well. So the due date is really all you need, but if you do want to control when assignments show up on the student's to-do list, so maybe you want to scatter when these actually appear to students, you can use this visible on column. And we do have the ability to set prerequisites. If you happen to get ahead or behind schedule in the semester, we have a shift multiple due dates option that will allow you to shift full groupings of assignments ahead or behind, giving you a lot of flexibility to make changes throughout the semester. So the main thing to know is that once you set up these due dates, they're not necessarily set in stone. You can make modifications for full sections at any point by coming back to this page, but it's really just that simple. You pick out the due dates and then save changes, and those assignments will show up on your students' to-do list. It pre-populated with the learn, practice, and certify mode and the default set of questions that are already assigned to each of these lessons. This is one of the ways that it makes it so easy for instructors to get started by using these the default questions that are already assigned. I'm going to jump back to the assignments tab and point out two other things here. So one, as I mentioned, you can just assign the lessons by picking out due dates, and that will populate them onto the student's to-do list for your sections that you've set up. The default will be assigned. If you do ever want to make customizations or changes to the question types that appear in any of our lessons, the curriculum is where you can make those modifications. There are quite a few customization options within curriculum, so I'm not going to dive into that today. However, if you did want to ever add in questions or remove certain questions from any of the lessons you're choosing to assign, you can do that with our curriculum. You also have option to set up supplemental assignments through WebTest. WebTest is our test or assignment builder tool. This really just allows you to create supplemental assignments, whether they are tests and or quizzes, additional homework assignments that are spanning more than one lesson. It gives you the flexibility to create your own assignments to supplement those lessons that you're picking out and setting up. You can see I have quite a few tests that I've already gone through and created here. And you can use this test builder tool to create both paper and pencil and or virtually assigned tests and quizzes. So it is something that you can use to supplement your class in really any way that you'd like to, even if you are managing a portion of the class via paper pencil. I'm going to go through just a really quick demonstration of this. In order to set up a supplemental assignment using our test builder tool, you'll click on this Create New button. The Create New will launch our assignment builder. And the assignment builder is a dual pane view, which you'll see in just a moment here, allowing you to see all available questions on the left-hand panel, and then the test as you're building it on the right. I say test, but it might be a quiz, it might just be a supplemental assignment. It doesn't have to be a test. You can use your custom curriculum. So if you happen to have made changes to a particular lesson, and you want to build a test from those custom changes, you can use your custom curriculum to build the test. But if you want to view all questions available in each and every lesson, you can use the default. Once you click a curriculum, this will load all of the chapters that correspond with this particular textbook, and you can expand a chapter to view any of the lessons. You can approach this in one of two ways, either by selecting multiple lessons and determining a total number of questions you want pulled from that grouping of lessons and clicking add, and it will randomly select 6 total questions from the 3 lessons that you picked out and pop it over onto your test. Or you can click into any specific lesson and view all available questions to assign in that lesson. This will allow you to go question by question through all available questions in this particular lesson and select the ones that you'd like by either placing a check mark next to those and clicking the add selected, or scrolling through and just clicking add as you go. As you can see, it shows this in use as soon as you select something, and it pops it over to your actual test. By default, all of these questions are algorithmic in nature, so you're selecting the question type, and each student will get a different version of that question type. And the ordering and values are all different from student to student if you choose to assign this virtually. So you can do that by working through and saving the test, and then actually assigning it with specific settings. So you can define when a test is going to be open and closed for the students. You can define a password for that test, how it's going to be categorized and graded. You can set up prerequisites. You can use our lockdown browser. There's a lot of options that you have with assigning a test virtually using our web test tool. You do also have the option of exporting to Microsoft Word. This would be if you plan to give a test via paper pencil and you want to make some modifications to it. The export is a great spot to start. This allows you to export in multiple versions as well. And you also have a file print. So if you just want to print it on the fly and have it in class as a pop quiz or something along those lines that students are doing paper pencil as well, the print allows you to print in multiple versions as well. But this is really just allowing you to create supplemental assignments that you can either assign virtually for your course or assign, and give out in class for the students. With the very last few minutes here, I'm going to jump over to our reports and just point out a couple key reports that you can use to track your students as they're progressing through your course. So just to recap, we set up our sections in the tools area. We defined our grading scheme and set up a lesson late penalty and grade settings. We picked out all of our lessons and set up due dates for those and set up some web tests under the assignments tab. And reports is really where you track your students and their progress as they're working through your sections. There are 4 key reports here at the top that allow you to really track your students' grades and their activity. We separated this into the key reports area because these are the most used reports on an instructor to instructor basis, but there are quite a few additional reports related to grading, lessons, and web tests at the bottom. The one I want to point out today is this all student scores. This is going to be the closest report that we have that would mimic sort of a grade book, quote unquote, that you might think of, where you can see all students in a particular section and any of their scores on the assignments that you've picked out. So this really allows you to track entire sections of students, see what their final grade or grade to that point is, and then see what their weighted grade is for each of the grading groups that you have set up. So if you ever wanted to expand any of these groups to dig in a little deeper and see exactly how your students are progressing through the homework assignments that you've selected, this allows you to expand and view our graphical view where you can see the check marks for assignments that were done on time, the yellow check mark for things that were done late, and the orange clock for things that are past due. This kind of lets you see that visual of how your students are tracking. You can also access reviews of the assignments from this area, and really just ensure that your students are completing the work and completing it on time. If you ever wanted to view just a specific student, these names are clickable and it redirects you to our detailed student grades report. But this is allowing you to kind of at a glance see exactly how your students are performing in any of the assignments that you've selected and set up for your sections. There's some filtering options up here at the top, and you do have the option of exporting this. So if you keep track of your grades elsewhere, you can always export this to Excel. So with that, I'm out of time. I do just want to check and see if there's any questions. We will be hosting a few additional, more customized webinars later this week. So if you are interested in learning more about our question builder tool or taking a deep dive into some of our reporting features, I would suggest attending those. And just so you know, we are recording this and we'll be posting these elsewhere. But if you do end up having any questions at all, or need extra assistance in getting your course set up and ready to go, please reach out to training@hawkslearning.com and we'd be happy to help you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.